Birds, people, and the dogs that bring them together. This is episode number 34. My name is Bill, and you're tied to the Woe Post. We're 1 week into the most wonderful time of the year. If bird hunting seasons are open near you, hopefully you've been out in the woods behind your favorite dog. This may be your young pup's first season, and many adventures await. Or it may be your old dog's last season, and your heart is full with warm memories of staunch points and proud retrieves. It may be your child's first hunt, a future full of promise and opportunity, or it may be a loved one's last, as they pass the torch of wisdom and the obligation of mentorship to you. Whether you're hunting the thick north woods, the high desert, or the golden plains, may your hunts be safe and memorable. Cherish these days, they're the good old ones, and hunt as long and as often as possible, because when hunting season is over, the only thing worse than tag soup is regret. I'll be spending my season hunting over my favorite breed, the small Munsterlander, and that's what this episode is about. Small Munsterlanders are elegant and energetic medium-sized dogs with a strong confidence only outweighed by their loyalty to and cooperation with their handler. They are versatile dogs that combine intelligence, desire, and fidelity. They quickly adapt to multiple types of game, climate, and terrain. Tireless in the field and good-natured in the home, they are solid pointers, meticulous trackers, disciplined retrievers, and enthusiastic swimmers. Although there are arguments for a much longer history, perhaps back to the 1500s, official documentation of the small Munsterlander dates back to the mid-1800s and names two storied lines. These lines, managed by a teacher and a gamekeeper respectively, originated in the Munster region of Germany. It wasn't until 50 years later that the breed was well established with German hunters, and the breed club Association for Kleine Munsterlander Wursthund was founded and a stud book and registry were created. Until 1927, only brown and white dogs were recognized within the breed. That year, Edmund Lons, an early ambassador of the breed, was so impressed with the temperament and hunting aptitude of a roan female that he incorporated her into his breeding kennel. This color prevailed, and due to its genetic dominance, roughly half of today's small Munsterlanders are brown roan. In addition to brown roan, small Munsterlanders may be brown and white. Most have an all-brown head and face, but a white blaze, known as a spaniel marking, on the forehead or muzzle is acceptable. Their coat is medium long and soft, with feathering behind the legs, on the ears, and on the tail. They're one of the smallest versatile breeds, with males standing 20.5 to 22 inches tall, and females 20 to 21 inches tall. Today we're talking small Munsterlanders with Pam Robinson, owner of Robingun Kennels. But first I'd like to thank my Patreon patrons who support the podcast by pledging $3 per month. Patrons get monthly exclusive content and are part of a community that grows every week. Thanks to each one of you for supporting the show. Remember to like and follow on Facebook and Instagram at The Woe Post. Check out my website, www.thewopost.com, and shoot me an email with questions, comments, or recommendations at bill@thewopost.com. Pam, thanks for being on the show.
You're welcome.
I'm really excited. I've heard so much about your kennel, and, in our world, in the small Munsterlander world, it's not a very big space. And the most recent Munster Tales just came out yesterday, and I think there are only 240 something Munsters registered this year, or at least club recognized Munsters registered this year. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Yeah. Small world, and you're kind of a big fish in a small pond, so I'm really happy to have you here.
Thank you.
Can you go ahead and introduce yourself, please?
Pamela Robinson, Robingun Kennels, Lincoln, Nebraska.
Right. And there are a lot of Robingun Munsters at this point. How long have you guys been putting Munsters out?
I started my breeding with my males in 2008, and I had my first litter in 2011.
Now, all right, so this is curious because it seems like most people would do it the other way around, where they might start with a female or two and kind of work their way into breeding and then retire from breeding and maybe just go the stud owner route. So what made you start with the stud dogs and then decide to go on to full breeding?
When I got my second Munsterlander, I got it from Chris Hill, and she got me involved in NAVDA, and she was a breeder. And then I started breeding my males, and then she got me my very first female, and I had my first litter in 2011 from Wolfsburg Kennel, and he's the one that first imported the breed from Germany in 1970.
Right, right. So Chris suckered you into it, basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And everybody loves Chris, of course. You know, she's had
Yeah.
a huge contribution to the small Munsterlanders in North America, arguably as big as anybody. You've had probably the best mentor in the breed that you could ask for.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, Chris is great. So, were Munsters your first bird dog, or did you have bird dogs before that?
No, I grew up hunting when I was 14 years old in central Nebraska, and I was my dad's bird dog. We didn't have a bird dog,
Were you a flusher or just a retriever?
a retriever.
Well, that's good. At least he didn't have you out there quartering in front of him and trying
Nope,
to kick the birds up, right?
nope. But I learned about the breed back in 1993, and I got my first Munsterlander in 1995. And Tom McDonald helped me find him. I got him from Iowa. And then when I went to get my second Munsterlander, I met Chris Hill.
Now, what was it then in '93 that got you looking at the breed to begin with?
That they were calm in the home, yet were good hunting dogs in the field and would track, and you could do anything with them. They're very versatile. I read an article in a local newspaper about them.
Oh, wow. So it was a print article back
Yep.
then about small Munsterlanders. Do you remember who wrote the article by any chance?
Ray DeYoung is who was featured in the article.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure
Gotcha.
who wrote the article.
Okay. That's really interesting. And Michelle Wilbers always tells me, she's my mentor, and she's the one that always tells me that the way I market my dogs is because of their temperament and because of how good they are 345 days out of the year in the home, and then
Yep.
how well they adapt to the other 20 days that most people actually hunt.
Yep.
And, if you said you listen to the show from time to time, and, that's a common theme that we should be looking for dogs for the majority of what we're going to do with them, not for the fraction of time that we're actually going to spend with them out in the field.
Correct. I breed for temperament, conformation, and hunting ability.
I love that sequence, how temperament and conformation are first and foremost, because those are the two of the things that make the dog, number one, fun to live with, right? And number two, healthy for as long as possible.
Yes.
How do you separate temperament from hunting aptitude?
I do what's called a Volhard test when the puppies are 5 and 7 weeks old. Kind of improvised it a little bit to where I put in birds instead of like toys.
Okay.
And then I pick the dogs out based on that. And then I help match my puppy buyers with their puppy based on the temperament and if they're wanting a breeding dog or not a breeding dog or etc.
Now, does that test focus more on, or does it give you results or observations based on boldness and cooperation? Or those kind of the two biggest things?
Yes.
Okay. I of course read a lot about puppy culture and all of the various things that are kind of like puppy culture, but I
Yes.
haven't heard of that specifically, so I've got to do some homework on that.
Okay.
So it took you 2 years to figure out whether or not you wanted a monster.
Yep.
What was it that finally?
It took 2 years to find one.
Oh, wow. Was it waiting list a lot of the time, or was it actually finding an available a litter?
Finding an available litter. And my first Munsterlander I got, there were 10 puppies and he was the only male. And I wanted a male. So I brought Angus home, and he was a phenomenal hunting dog. But I didn't do all the NAVDA training. and everything until I met Chris Hill.
Okay. And was she already judging at this point?
I don't think so.
Not yet, but she still had a lot of NAVDA experience
Yes.
by that point. This isn't going to be a Chris Hill episode, I promise. But how did you meet Chris? Was it just through the small Munsterlanders?
I wanted a second Munsterlander, and I discovered we lived 30 miles apart. And she helped me pick out Gunner was his name. And he's a prize one NAVDA utility dog. And she helped me train him. And we went through lots of mistakes with that dog. And Chris is a phenomenal person, with helping with training and everything like that. But we went through him, and he's a prize one utility dog. He's no longer with me, unfortunately. And then my first versatile champion I got from Chris, VC Joker. And he's the youngest small Munsterlander in the United States to retrieve or to achieve a perfect score in the Invitational.
How old was he when he did that?
3.
Wow. What an accomplishment, huh?
Yeah.
And what an adventure those 3 years must have been with that dog.
Yeah.
How do you keep up with a dog that shows that much aptitude and, trainability, bitability, ability to learn and all that?
He was a very calm dog, and he learned a lot from watching my other dog, Gunner. And so I just trained them together. Joker didn't like to train. We called him Showtime. He was he did really well in testing, but he wasn't a big training fan. He'd get hot, and if he decided he was hot, he'd go swim in the pond. And
when you're trying to do field work and he's off in the pond over there cooling off.
Yeah, exactly.
That's tough to get past when you're thinking about impulse control especially at the higher test levels. And
Yep.
I think about steady by blind and the impulse control that's required for that portion of utility, and thinking about my dog that's like maybe he just wants to go off and do his thing every once in a while. I'd be so nervous during that part of the test.
Yeah. No, he was a champion when it came to doing that.
I guess as long as he knows he's going to be able to cool off in the water, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So have you raised any other breeds since you started with the Munsters in the mid-90s?
No, just
I
mushroom.
don't blame you. Why mess with perfection?
Yep.
That's what I say.
I have 25 Breeders' Awards from NAVDA.
Now, you're supposed to have them on the wall as part of your backdrop right now when we're doing this Zoom call.
Kennel.
Yeah, the kennel's where they belong. My kennel, if you will, is my office. I have my 4 wire crates against the waterfowl wall. And then, we have outdoor kennels as well, which is where the dogs are right now. Usually they're in here when I'm recording, but not today.
Yeah.
Well, the puppies didn't get out to the field today, so they're still a little high strung. I've got to get out and do some yard work with them later.
Yep.
Just the big dogs went out to the field today. So besides the ubiquitous, off button or whatever, whatever you want to call it. I know some people say they're tired of hearing about the off button. I started calling it the on button thanks to Stephen Faust, but I think people caught on to that pretty quick and realized that it's exactly the same thing. What is it about the Munsters that kept you with them?
Their ability to train. They love to train. They love to work. Like I have one of my oldest male is trained to blood track. And I had never done blood tracking with a dog until I got him. And they're tracking phenomenal dogs. And I just think that the breed is not only good in the home, but good in the field. If you hit a pheasant and you can't find the pheasant, the dog is going to find the pheasant.
I've not left game in the field when I've had a small Munsterlander with me. I used to be able to say that about my pudelpointer, but on the dove opener, the guy next to me knocked one down and he couldn't find it. And I thought for sure, I had Moose, my pudelpointer, out there with me. And I thought for sure I'll just send Moose out there. It'll be an easy blind for him. He'll come back with that bird really quick. And he couldn't find it. And I was thinking to myself, darn it, I should have brought Skeet out here. She'd have found it.
Yep. I've never lost a game with my dogs.
I think that bird walked into the woods and then flew where we couldn't see it. That's what I think happened.
Probably.
When you're training blood tracking, are you doing that differently from just how you would train the normal puppy track for natural ability?
Yes, I use a different collar and a different leash. They're on the lead for blood tracking.
Oh, okay.
I use the blood track about every 3 feet. I put down blood, and then they pick it up real quickly. He did anyway. And then I use him a lot now for people that can't find deer,
So you're in a registry or in a directory or online or whatever
just for with friends.
with friends? Okay. Yeah. That's cool. I've used my dogs to track deer, but never out of necessity, only out of opportunity. And they've not had to do a long track. It's just anytime I've taken a deer and I was in a position where I could get to my dogs, I would bring them down and have them track the deer. Honestly, most times it's like 30 yards or 50 yards. It's not a hard track at all, but I still bring the dogs down to do that.
Xander's done over a mile track.
Really?
Yeah.
So that brings up another question, I guess. And so in Nebraska, do you automatically have right of way through properties to be able to track wounded or downed game?
No,
Oh, see, so whoever arrowed or shot that deer is making phone calls and knocking on doors the whole way?
pretty much.
Do you know roughly how many different property owners they had to go through?
There's several.
Oh, wow. I had to do that once. I arrowed a doe just before sunset. Yeah, I should have been lazy, but I wasn't. And I didn't make a bad shot other than she just didn't die. And, I tracked her after, I don't know, a half hour or so, and I saw her get up and run. So I backed out and waited a few hours, went back, tracked her a little bit more. Now we're well into the dark, and I actually saw her off in the distance, kind of limping away. So I said, all right, well, I'm going to come back in the morning. Went back the next morning, knocked on a few more doors to the properties where I thought that she would be, got permission to go back, and all I found was a bunch of fur.
Oh, really?
Yeah, coyotes got to her that night, I think.
Yep.
So I was thinking, darn it, I should have tried to push her then if I was going to lose her anyway, I should
Yep.
have just stayed out there and tried to get her. It's hard to put a second arrow into a deer at like midnight.
Yeah.
It's also illegal, so it's kind of frowned upon. But that's pretty cool though that you trained your dog to do that, and then you made it available to go out, and you have all the tracking equipment, and you actually train for it. Very cool.
Yep. He actually has a hardness certificate from Germany because he killed a fox.
I've never heard of this before, so can you explain that?
It's in Germany, they have to kill game like a coon or a fox or whatever. And then you get what's called a hardness certificate. And we had a female fox running through the property that he grabbed and killed that my neighbor witnessed. And so I had to turn in the paperwork, and he got his hardness certificate from Germany.
Do possums and feral cats count?
No, I wish.
Oh.
He's killed plenty of feral cats.
Yeah, I could have certificates all over my wall thanks to possums and feral cats.
Yep.
But they've not, well, actually, my poodle pointer killed a skunk.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
great. That's got to count for something. I really should get some sort of award for that.
You should.
It's only fair, right?
Yep.
Oh, man. So, can you describe small Munsterlanders to the folks that maybe haven't seen one or haven't hunted over one?
They're a small to medium sized breed that track very well. They'll point and find the game and will retrieve the game. I've never had to force fetch one of my small Munsterlanders, and that I think they just have every quality you want. They're great in the home. They're calm. I've got one laying on the couch by me right now.
I think there's an additional qualifier that always has to go with that because I've had people say, well, I don't know, I've had a small Munsterlander for a year now and it's a terror in the home. And I always say, well, you have a puppy, not you don't have a small Munsterlander yet. You need to give it another year or so until it's not a puppy.
They don't mature till they're about 2.
Sure. And that's, any puppy is going to be crazy in the home, except for maybe, I don't know, a bulldog or something like that, that
Yep.
is not a very athletic dog anyway. So,
Yep.
but they do, I think, once they mature, they just turn into the sweetest little dogs. And with the softest coats, I just tell people, soft like a bunny, is once you start petting it, you're just not going to be able to stop.
Yep.
So you've owned how many versatile champions now? I know you mentioned the one.
I have one versatile champion. I have 4 prize one utility dogs and several other prize utility dogs. And then, like I said, 25 breeders awards.
So out of all of those, really good dogs, which one stands out the most?
VC Joker.
VC Joker, of course, right?
Yep. He was the easiest dog to train and had the best temperament. And he was just awesome, an awesome dog.
So now you've owned obviously really good males and you've owned some really good females as well. You've got, some prize one utility females, right?
Yes.
So Scott Green and I have this discussion all the time about, he's obviously stud owner in our breed, right?
Yep.
And, of course, I gravitate towards the females of, within the breed. And we have a discussion all the time about which are better, the male dogs or the female dogs. And I
Yep.
think he likes the balanced temperament of the males and the very deliberate, methodical dog for the most part.
Yep.
And I prefer that female that's just gonna get out and go all
Yeah.
day. What are your thoughts?
I think the females bond better with whoever trains them. I think they have a very, like my Cayetta, she's a prize one utility dog. And she will do anything I ask that dog to do. But she will not listen to my husband for anything.
No?
I think the females tend to bond better with one person, whoever is training them and working with them, where the males are probably better family dogs that will bond and train and listen to anybody. So that's what I tell my puppy buyers is if they've got kids and they want a dog that will listen to anybody, I suggest they get a male. And if they are wanting a dog that will hunt and hunt, it's, pardon my speech, ass off. I tell them to get a female.
I think that's pretty consistent with what I've seen. And I've only been into the monsters for a few years now, not quite 3. But I with the females that I've either owned or hunted over, I've not hunted over a male small Munsterlander. I have that one puppy in the house right now, and I've worked and trained over a few males before, and I'd say, yeah, that's pretty consistent with what I've seen for sure. And this little male that I've got in the house right now, he'll hang out with anybody. He's just a sweetheart of a little dog compared to my adult female, who is definitely my dog. There's no question.
Yep.
When we're in the living room at night and she's over there on her bed in her place, all I have to do is twitch my finger and she's gonna, maybe not sit up all the way, but she's gonna pick her head up and lock eyes with me from across the room and just,
Yep.
where are we going? What are we doing?
That's my Branca. Branca's that way.
Sure. And I'm still learning how to capitalize, really exploit that,
Yep.
to make her the best dog that I can be, or well, that she can be. Make me
Yep.
the best trainer that I could be, I guess.
Yep.
So, how many dogs do you have in your kennel now?
I have 20.
You have 20 dogs in your kennel?
Yes.
All small Munsterlanders.
Yes.
Wow. I, that's a lot of monsters. Now, well, okay, do you have a litter in there right now? Do you have puppies?
Nope. They're all adult or very young dogs. Some are retired from hunting
Sure, sure.
and breeding. Like my oldest is 14 and a half,
Yeah,
and she's retired from hunting and guiding. But I guide a lot at Oak Creek Sporting Club, and I use 5 to 7 dogs each hunt.
really?
Yeah.
For how many hunters?
5 to 6 hunters,
Okay.
and then sometimes 2 hunts a day.
And are you using the same string of dogs for 2 hunts, or are you going to rotate dogs?
I rotate dogs.
Yeah.
Everybody in my house is hunted except the ones that are retired.
And that's all season long?
All season long, September 1st through April 15th, and then I train year round.
So have you guided yet this year?
My first guide is September 14th.
So right around the corner.
Yep.
And you got your orange on, so I'm going to assume the dogs are ready.
Yep, they're ready.
Yeah, I bet. I bet they know it's coming too.
Yeah.
Is it starting to cool off yet over there in Nebraska?
It's pretty cool today. It's in the 80s today.
Oh, that's still warm for training dogs.
Yeah. We'll start early in the day for
Right.
their first hunt, and we'll be done by 11.
I'm assuming that where you're guiding, this is a preserve.
Yes.
About how many birds are they usually putting out for, on a typical day, what do you think?
Anywhere from 20 to 50.
So that's why you're hunting over 5 to 7 dogs then. Are all of these dogs honoring
Yes.
with braces that large and with that much bird exposure? They really don't have a choice. And I think, but I'm assuming a lot of these dogs were just kind of born into this life.
Yes.
As adolescents, they're out there with the adult dogs, and
Yep.
if they don't back, then adult dogs are going to let them know that they should.
Yep.
How often does that happen?
I've only got probably 2 dogs that I've had that haven't backed naturally, that the older dogs had to kind of school them a little bit into this is what backing is. And
So are you training that at all once, with the dogs, or are you letting the dogs handle it?
I let the dogs handle it.
Have you tested AKC or any of those other ones where well, I mean, I know you've done an invitational, so you had a dog that certainly had to honor there.
I haven't done the AKC test because they
Right.
use conflict with our NAVDA test.
Oh, okay.
So, but I'm going to AKC test Kayeta and Tiva.
And how old are they right now?
Uh, Tiva is 7 and Kayeta is 5.
So are you going to go straight to senior hunter with those 2 dogs then?
Yes.
Yeah, junior hunter would kind of be probably a little bit of a waste of time and money, I would imagine.
Yep.
So kind of like doing natural ability for a finished dog.
Yep.
That's exciting. I haven't done any AKC testing, and there was actually a test that has openings here at the end of the month, not far from me, about 35 miles from me. But I already have a standby spot for a NAVDA test that's on the same weekend.
Yep.
So I can't go book with that AKC test because if that standby spot opens up with that natural ability test, I need to be able to be there.
Yep. That's
So,
what to me is they seem to conflict the weekends of the test.
right. It is what it is. We're going to test AKC next spring. I'm going to try and do it with all the dogs.
Yep.
So,
Same here. I've
yeah.
got some young dogs I want to AKC junior hunt test. So I've got a really nice little young female that's a granddaughter of my Nixie Ray.
Okay. Yeah, I think it'll be fun. And, it gives us more milestones to work towards as
Yep.
trainers, handlers, owners, right?
Yes.
We're looking into the VHDF stuff as well. Well, we may be setting up a chapter and we're trying to plan a test for the spring, but more to follow on that. Everything's pretty nascent right now.
Yep.
So
That'd be awesome.
it should be pretty cool. So we're trying to set up one day where we have all small Munsterlanders come in and test. So I need 8 to 10 Munsters
Yep.
for one day that can test in HAE or AHAE because I don't think we'll be able to resource, a higher test than that. But I think we can put it together. I'll have two there. There's a few other people that'll have one or two dogs there. So,
Yep.
but I'll have to let you know and see if we can get you over there with. I mean, you can't bring all 20 dogs,
No,
but
I won't bring all.
but yeah, maybe get you over there with a few. And the goal is to get as many small Munsterlanders in front of the judges as we can. 'Cause as far as I know, there's only been one small Munsterlander that's tested in VHDF as
Yep.
of right now. Or at least we can only find the scores for one. I might be wrong. I just, a friend of mine looked and we could only find one score sheet. So there's probably only one. So we're going to try and get more Munsters tested in VHDF, and that will also help to educate the judges on, what they can expect to see from a small Munsterlander. So
That's awesome.
yeah, it should be pretty fun. Like I said, I'll definitely let you know. It won't be
Yep.
too far of a drive well, it'll be about the same distance for you as it will be for me. I'll tell you after where we're going to do it. So,
Okay.
what are your hunting plans for the fall besides guiding on the the local preserve there?
I hunt probably 20 days a year, mainly upland, some waterfowl. Our waterfowl just always depends on the weather.
Yeah,
And last year was not good for waterfowl.
it was pretty
They,
dry, wasn't it?
yep. And so I hunt probably 20 days a year with my dogs, maybe more. And I hunt pheasant and quail a lot because that's mainly what's around here.
Right.
Some grouse.
We're talking sharp tail where you are, right?
Yep.
We always have to qualify when we say grouse because if you say grouse to somebody in Michigan, they're thinking ruffed grouse, right?
Yep.
If you say grouse to somebody in your neck of the woods, then obviously you're talking sharp tails or maybe somebody in the
Yep.
Pacific Northwest, they might be thinking of, spruce grouse or something.
Yep.
They're also different. They just need to change it up, just give them all different names.
Yep.
Probably be easier. So what have you done this summer to get your dogs ready for pretty big season of guiding?
I train 3 to 4 days a week on birds. And then I do a lot of swimming with my dogs because it gets pretty hot here in Nebraska
Yeah.
in the summer. So we do a lot of swimming and I get out in the kayak and they follow me for 40 minutes to an hour in the kayak.
Are your dogs swimming nonstop for that whole time, or are they kind of getting out, running the bank a little bit, and then coming back in?
They'll swim nonstop. They have
Really?
to follow mom.
So I have to push my dogs harder then because I'm not asking them to swim for that long. We've done, 30 plus minutes out on the water for sure, but I've given them the opportunity to kind of get out, run the bank a little bit. There's one spot in this pond where we train. It's got, I think it's a muskrat hole. I haven't really gone and investigated it, but I'll tell you that pulls the dogs every time we paddle by that darn spot. They want to go and investigate that spot so they get out. I was talking to a few people and they said your dog should be able to swim for 2 minutes for every 1 minute of good hard field work that they can do. Do you think that's a good ratio?
I think so.
I definitely need to push my dogs harder then. They're slacking on me. I know my dogs are in good shape and I know they can work a field for a good long time,
Yep.
but I think I'm a little bit of a softie when it comes to making them swim.
My dogs, when I guide, will do a 3 hour hunt.
That's fair. I mean, I know when we travel out of state, if I go to North Dakota and we're going to go walk big country somewhere, it's going to be 3 to 4 hours from the time we leave the tailgate to the time we get back to the tailgate. So I could totally see dogs hunting 3 to 4 hours easily. I mean,
Yep.
I'm not going to say it's easy. Like that, the dogs are pretty wore out at the end of 4 hours,
Yep.
but they do it, day after day for weeks. So,
Yep.
do you rotate your dogs at the preserve hunts with, you might hunt maybe 4 or 5 in the morning, and then you said you probably hunt a different string in the afternoon, but will that first group hunt again the next day?
Yes.
How do you track wear and tear on the dogs? Is it just kind of gut feeling because you know them so well at this point, or
Kind of gut feeling. And they're
yeah,
old enough that I can kind of tell if they need a break or if they don't need a break. And
sure? And I guess you're never really that far from the truck or the trailer or the kennel or however you got them out there. If you're on a preserve, you're probably within 700-800 yards anyway, probably, right?
yep.
Then you get them out in big Nebraska corn country somewhere, and you got to be thinking about it out there, right?
Yep. Yep.
So, what are some of the things that set you apart, your kennel? And I'm going to tell you, I already know some of them because you guys obviously have a very good name in the small Munsterlander world. But without being too modest, what are some of the things you think set you apart from the other average kennel, from my kennel, Gallant Gun Dogs?
I've imported dogs from 5 countries
I haven't done that yet.
just because our gene pool is so small.
What countries have you imported from?
Czech Republic, the Netherlands, Denmark, Germany, and Sweden.
If you had to stereotype, where do you think the best, European small Munsterlanders are coming from?
From my experience and from my dogs, the Netherlands,
And what sets those dogs apart from the others?
they point better,
They point faster or stauncher?
the stauncher point.
Really?
Where my German dogs are better trackers,
Yes, I could definitely see that. Yeah.
and my Swedish dogs are good pointers too. But I think the Netherlands is where I've gotten my best dogs from.
That's interesting that they would point harder than some of the other dogs. I mean, the tracking German dogs, that does not surprise me at all.
Yep.
I wonder what it is about those Netherlands dogs that makes them point better.
In Germany, they don't have very many birds. They hunt a lot of waterfowl and fur.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of affects what you get from, you're not sure what you're getting for pointing stock.
Actually, that makes perfect sense. The dog that I'm breeding my female to probably in 4 or 5 or 6 days, somewhere right in that window, is an import from Denmark, actually.
Yes.
One of the ones that Michelle imported over there that she's got pretty close to her over there in Iowa. Just smart thinking, right?
Yep.
All right, Pam. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Nope. I appreciate your time.
Thanks so much for being on the show. How can people contact you if they want to try and find some of the best small Munsterlanders in the business?
Robingun Kennels at AOL.com.
All right. And you've got a website too, right?
Right now I'm rebuilding my website.
Oh, okay. Well, that's really fun, I'm sure. That's so exciting.
Yep.
Not so much. I actually worked on mine for about an hour last night.
A lot of work.
Yeah, it is. I was falling asleep over the keyboard. I
Yep.
hate doing that.
Yep.
It's the least fun part of this job.
Yep.
All right, Pam. Well, thanks so much for being on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking me.
I hope you enjoyed episode number 34 of the WoPost podcast. If you did, leave a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. You can join our Patreon community and have access to exclusive blog content for just $3 per month at patreon.com/thewOPost. Like and follow on Facebook and Instagram at the WoPost. And if you own a bird dog related business and you'd like to advertise on the WoPost podcast, or you'd like to contact me for any reason, email me at bill@thewopost.com. Stay steady and God bless.